So you take a laser and you do that.
Mm-hmm.
You take a bunch of points at different distances.
Yep.
Right? And each distance, those faraway points, if they're all the same elevation at those distances, they should drop more and more and more as they get further away, right? Because the Earth's supposed to be curving away from you.
Yes.
Okay. So if you take a laser transit and you do this, and we've actually done this, it's the same result at every elevation at every distance.
So do you have like those results? Like,
yeah, of course.
Because stuff like that is more interesting. Like, to disprove it, I guess.
Yeah,
it actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to understand though that 80 to 90% of our arguments are basically dealing with bad globe arguments, and so we're just kind of either showing someone how what they've said isn't a proof for the globe, or it isn't a proof of anything at all. And so that's why, because we get people come in and go, oh, well, this is proof of the globe, but then you have to demonstrate why it's not and all the rest. But probably 10% of our arguments are specifically proving a flat Earth, and virtually all of them are measurements.
Because,
yeah. None of that is actually
other
true.
Than a measurement is a waste of time.
Yeah, none of that is actually true. Every single experiment we've shown proves the globe. There's not a single experiment that indicates a flat Earth.
And I wasn't talking about experiments anyway. I'm talking about measurements, which actually matter.
Measurements are experiments.
No, they're not.
Who fucking unmuted you?
Me, I was bored, sorry. Always feel free to mute her again.
Imagine thinking measurements are experiments. Like how dumb you'd have to be.
Hey, like I saw a carpenter, they were building a cabinet. So he was like, when he was actually using a tape measure, he was doing experiments.
Allegedly. And anyway, I mean, obviously that's a red herring of the point, which was that 10% of the arguments from us are direct measurements, which is all that actually matters when you're talking about the shape of something.
Do you have one that actually shows that the Earth is flat?
Well, Indio's just been linking one, so maybe you can read the same one that Laser was getting access to.
Yeah, that doesn't show that the Earth is flat.
Oh, well,
what does it show?
It shows that lasers spread out a great deal over a long distance.
Well,
okay, so support that claim on what's the beam divergence of that laser?
It's several feet, isn't it?
What was the collimator? Listen, what was the collimator's beam divergence? They used the collimator on the beam, so what was the beam divergence of the laser?
Yeah. Can I see the actual data from that experiment?
Yeah. So you've never seen this, and you just said that there's the beam spread out, even though you've never seen it.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, the beam spread isn't even relevant. I don't even know why we're talking about it.
Beam divergence. Funny, man. That's like being, doing a book review when you didn't read the book.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Not fucking exactly like it, I think.
I didn't read the book, but I read the title, and that book sucks.
Yeah, all books suck. That's pretty good, though, really.
Oh, by the way, Jedi, fuck you. Just saying.
Yeah, cheers, buddy. Fuck you too.
Hey, I didn't unmute Brenda.
No, I didn't. That was me. Ratio Swan disappeared, so I had to unmute someone.
Yeah, fair enough. I withdraw my previously slightly rude fuck you.
Oh, I took it in all good humour, buddy. I've got, thick skin and I'm British and stuff, so I won't melt just yet.
Yeah. Thick skin and big teeth.
Yep.
I use the normal get out of I'm only half English anytime something bad about England is said to English people.
Yeah. You just need to read me on the own then, don't you? I see. Typical Frenchman.
Luckily, the other half isn't French.
Well, I'm going to say it is just so I can sleep better tonight.
I'm fine with that. There's probably some French back in the day anyway. I do like cheese after all.
You guys still talking about cheese?
Yeah, still.
Cheese is always on the agenda. Have the Dutch guys got over their Edam roll yet? Are they still moaning about that?
Probably.
Like, no, Gouda is so much better. Yeah, Roger said that to me.
Surprised wars haven't been started over cheese.
Probably have.
Probably. They just say it's other stuff. They said our cheese sucked. A war.
Fuck you, Protestants. Hey, I thought it was because you didn't like the cheddar. No, it's because you're Protestant.
So it was fucking Nazi cheese haters.
Ever seen The Man That Would Be King, that movie? Have you seen that?
No.
No.
Oh man, you gotta watch it. It's when I think of Brits, that's what I think of, that movie. The British character. It's based upon a book written by Rudyard Kipling about two Masons that go to Afghanistan. They don't use Afghanistan, but that's where he wrote everything from. They go there to make their fortune, and it's just a great movie. You got Sean Connery's in it, and Michael Caine are the two main people. It was made in the late, either the late 70s or early 80s.
Yeah, I know the name of the film. I'm glad to watch it then.
Yeah, it's a fantastic movie. One of my favorite movies. Everything that makes a good story.
It's got Michael Caine in it as well.
Yeah, there you go. And Sean Connery. They're both very good actors. Even though he's technically not a Brit, right? He's a Scot.
No, he's British.
He's British, but Scottish.
Is he a
Not
knight
English,
yet? Did
is
they
what he
knight
meant.
him yet?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Oh, guys fucking knight everybody. It doesn't even mean anything anymore.
No,
In fact, me and Jedi both knighted.
Yeah, no,
absolutely. I'll change my name
crypto.
to Sir Jedi. Hold on.
Yeah, it's annoying. I got mine in the post. They said they can't do it in person anymore. COVID.
Yeah.
Yo, someone's gonna get a night ship out of COVID. Watch, I guarantee it.
Did you guys hear? Actually, there was a big shit fest on Twitter because allegedly a nurse, whistleblower, said that her ward hasn't had anyone at all for the whole duration, and some relatively big Twitter person has reposted it, and there's like screenshots of an empty ward with no one in any of the beds and stuff. Don't know whether to believe it or not really, but I certainly could believe it.
My ex was in hospital the other week. She's pregnant at the moment. She's had a couple of complications and whatever. She was only in hospital for about 16 hours, but she said it was dead. There was no one there. Yeah, no one.
And so I looked at the FE-core laser experiments.
Test.
So I have a question about them. Why did they point the laser down?
They pointed it down
instead of keeping it level.
Did you actually look at the document? You can see a laser level right there.
No, they pointed it down. That's what they did.
Oh, is your argument that they showed it through the water?
It should be kept level.
Okay, so this is a nonsense argument designed to waste our time. Good.
Why is that nonsense? That's how you would determine whether the Earth is curved or not.
If it was pointed down, and entered the water, it wouldn't hit the target, would it?
I didn't say it was pointed into the water. I said it was pointed down from level. It was not level.
Let's say, imagine for a second that that's what actually happened. Yes, they pointed it down. How did they get over the 440-foot mountain of water in between them and the target by pointing it down?
The divergence of the beam was so high they couldn't really measure it.
What was the beam?
And it was over, and it was over their heads. That's why they pointed it down. The reason.
Sorry, you said Brenda, you said the beam divergence was massive. What was the beam divergence? It's in the document. You said it was massive. Tell me how big massive is.
Well, it's massive, obviously.
Yeah. 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meters, 150 meters. How much was the beam divergence?
6 million meters.
Here comes the skipping stone hypothesis. Here it is.
And he's also talking about Lake. He's also talking about Lake Balaton.
The laser beam was it was impossible for them to locate it because of the divergence.
Listen, that document has 7 different measurements in it. 2 are at Lake Balaton, 5 are at Lake Gissel in Netherlands. Right. So there are actually 2 sets were at Lake Gissel. They were done 3 weeks apart. So you get Balaton, because that isn't even that long of a distance. The significant distance is the 25-mile one. Right. So there's supposed to be a 440-foot mountain of water between the beam and the target.
Yeah, well,
how does pointing that in any way, shape, or form somehow get it over that?
So by pointing it down, they nullified the experiment.
It's not an experiment, and they didn't.
It is an
tell
experiment.
Us how.
It's not an experiment.
Because in order
Can
to
you tell us how pointing it down? What are the effects of pointing it down?
then you're no longer measuring curvature. If it's not, if the measuring stick, the laser, isn't kept level, you're not measuring curve anymore.
Okay, and we want to know why that is. We want a coherent explanation of why that is. You're just repeating yourself over and over again, saying, "No, they pointed it down, and because they pointed it down, it's invalid." Why? You need a rational reason for it. You're just stating that it is.
Yes, because that's how you measure things level. Is by having
that's your reason.
Because you have to have a level measurement. You have to have your measurement. Your instrument has to be level if you're going to measure something to be level. That's how leveling works.
Who said they were measuring level? They're testing for curvature. They're testing if there's a bulge of water between them and the target.
Yeah, and the way you do that is with a level. And if it's not level, you're not measuring level.
So you test a curve with a level. Tell me how you do that.
By seeing if the curve diverges, then you know that the thing that you're measuring isn't level. By comparing it to the instrument, which is itself level.
This is amazing.
You're spatially, I don't even know what.
The way I know a 2x4 is not straight is by comparing it to a 2x4 that is straight.
Okay. So the laser is straight, right?
But it's not level. They pointed it down.
Okay, so when they point it down, shouldn't the beam intersect with the water at some point? Because now they're no longer parallel, right?
They were 1.25 meters off of the ground, so there's room there to point downwards and not point it into the water.
Is there 440 foot there in that 1 meter? Didn't think so. Right, so your argument's complete nonsense, and you're here to waste everyone's time.
My argument is nonsense. They pointed it down. They nullified their experiment.
I just asked you, is there 440 foot within that 1 meter that you just said? Because there would have to be.
You have to have the instrument level if you're going to measure curve.
No, I asked, is there
Just
440
repeating
foot
the
within
same
the 1
thing
meter?
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. The
You
functional,
can't-
there's, like, we've already conceded the pointing down, even though I don't agree that that's even true. We've
I
already
know it's
given you
not
that
true,
ground. Yeah. We've already given you that. I'm just clarifying for anyone else listening. We've already given you that, right? And then you said, oh, you pointed it down so you can't measure the difference. First of all, no evidence it was pointed down. Second of all, they weren't trying to measure from level. They were trying to see if there was a hump of water. So, your point about quote-unquote measuring level, irrelevant. We're talking about whether there's a hump of water between the laser and the target. That's what matters.
Dude, there's no hump. That's not the curve model.
That's the point.
There's no hump.
Clearly there's no hump because they hit the target.
That's not how the curvature works, dude.
Okay.
There isn't a hump.
Will a curve? Listen,
Wow.
will a curve deviate from a straight line? Right.
The way the curvature works,
parallel at one point, right? It'll start deviating from that straight line. Right, and with distance, that separation is gonna get larger and larger and larger and larger, right?
So the problem is that you seem to think that there's a hump. That's not how the Earth curves. That's not how it works. That's not how it ever works.
Somewhere, somehow.
You got
There's
it
no
backwards.
hump.
You're the one that thinks there's a hump there.
He said hump.
And what is blocking boats?
There we go.
They're going over the curvature. It's curving down from the observer.
Yeah.
There's no hump.
Is there water in between your line of sight and the boat?
Yes.
Okay, and we can characterize that as a hump.
No,
Sagita,
it's not a hump.
But let's call it the sagita then.
It's not a hump.
Be super technical. Let's call it the sagita then. If you're all gonna get fixated on words, let's call it what it is geometrically, the sagita.
You mean the chord? The sagitta is the perpendicular to the chord.
Yeah. The sagita. That's what's supposed to be blocking the boat. The sagita blocks the boat.
Well, right? the chord between observer A and observer B. Observer B is over the horizon. There's a chord between the two, a straight line that would go through the Earth. Right.
Yeah.
But that's not a hump because that's not a hump because
the sagita is the hump, dude.
No, no, it isn't. The sagitta is just the perpendicular to the midpoint of that chord.
And regardless, do you really think that they've shot in a direct straight line between the target and the laser through the water?
They didn't go through the water, but they pointed it downwards.
Of course they didn't.
They pointed it downwards.
Yes, they pointed it downwards at what?
They pointed it down because the beam was over their heads, and in order to fake the results, they had to point it down.
There we go.
So
they faked the results.
Yes, because there isn't a hump. That isn't how curvature works on a spherical body.
Well,
it's not a hump.
Be water curving on a ball. Wouldn't there?
Excuse me?
There would have to be water curving around the ball, wouldn't there?
Yes, in the globe Earth model.
So in relation to any straight line, that curved water would look like a hump, wouldn't it?
Not to any straight line, no.
Okay, well you're just wrong and lying. That's fine. I'm done.
Well, a straight line from the observer, perpendicular to the plumb of the observer, would go off into space.
Right. So if you take a straight line from where the laser was shot, and then draw a straight line to the target, you go through the water, right?
Or through the Earth. Water or land.
Matter.
Water or land. Yeah.
Right. So they didn't do that, did they?
Thereby nullifying their results. Because if you point the laser down,
when they hit the target,
you're no longer taking a measurement.
The globe model.
Because if you point the laser down, you're no longer taking a measurement of the curvature.
They weren't doing that.
They were.
Testing for deviation from the laser. There has to be a deviation with distance, which gets larger, a distant space between the laser and the water level, right? That should increase with distance. It did not increase.
So imagine this. I'm standing with the laser surveying equipment, the laser transit, and I have the laser plumb and level. I've drawn a plumb, and I made sure with my bubble that it's perfectly level, and the laser shoots out, and then the observer is the FE Corps person. They're on the other side of I don't know, what is it, a lake or a river? Where is that laser going to?
Saltwater lake.
Where is that laser going to be in relation to the second person?
Well, it depends on how far away that person is.
Well, generally, where is it going to be? What are some of the distances they used? 16 miles?
They used 25 miles. So if
Yeah.
they're 25 miles away, the laser's going to be 440 feet over their head on the globe model.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
But that's because they pointed it down.
Yeah, so
Again.
By pointing it down, they've nullified the experiment.
Okay, listen.
No,
if they pointed
it's
it
not an
down,
experiment.
listen. If the Earth was a globe and they pointed it down more than, I can just calculate it real quick. Just calculate what it is. How many degrees you can point it down from 2 meters? Okay, so the horizon dip is 0.04 degrees. So if they tilt it down any more than 0.04 degrees, they're hitting water.
Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. They've
I'll
nullified.
calculate how much drop there is in 0.04 degrees at 25 miles. I'm guessing it's something like 10 meters. Okay, so you only have something like 80 more meters to go to get to the elevation they were actually measured it at.
So if you
Understand
keep
the water gets in the way.
No, if
because
you keep
think
it
there's a hump
level.
of water.
So what happened is they kept it level, and the beam was over their heads. And so in order to fake the results, they pointed it down, which thereby nullified their experiment.
What
What you're
evidence
saying
do
is
you
actually
have it was over
functionally
their heads?
impossible. Like, the lie that you're telling is functionally impossible, and you don't realize it.
Why is it functionally impossible?
Because if the beam was going over their heads, adjusting it down to hit the target would be shooting through water
No, there's room.
on your model.
No, there's room for them to hit it.
I just
Then the
told you
Earth's
what that
flat.
room was.
No, there
I was
isn't.
just
There's
gonna
no
say, even
hump. You keep thinking there's a hump. This is sort of the presupposition that's behind your fallacious thinking
Yeah, here we go with the psychology bullshit.
is
Listen,
the
look at the
water
image I
flat?
posted in arena text.
Even if it's flat though, if you pointed it down, wouldn't it eventually hit the ground?
Of course. But Brenda's not here
So-
to actually talk sense. Brenda's here to just waste everyone's time.
I don't know. I'm just confused. Whatever.
Yeah, but that's Brenda's job, is to make you feel confused and to waste our time.
Yeah, I see the image. What of it?
Okay, you see where I wrote hump on it? Sagitta. That's the sagitta. That is the height of the water in between those 2 points. Right? If I was going to look directly at the other point, right, in a straight line, and that wasn't there for a second, right, this is the amount of water that would be in between those 2 points. That's what I mean by hump of water.
Okay, that doesn't have. There's plenty of room from.
I'm about to tell you exactly how much room there is.
There's plenty of room from the eye camera to hit the green
28
visible
meters.
part.
That's how much room you got.
Delightfully
28
ambiguous,
meters.
isn't it?
If it just skims the horizon from a height of, what did I used 2 meters. So if it just skims the horizon at a height of 2 meters, they can drop it at 41 kilometers away.
There's
28
plenty of
meters.
room to connect you can connect the eye camera with the green segment labeled visible.
They have to be able
Easily.
to drop it 127 meters, Brenda.
you can connect those with a straight line. In fact, a good part of it. In fact, I think most of it. So anywhere in that green segment, you could hit that with a laser mounted at eye camera.
I get that, but they're not in the green segment. They're in the red segment.
We don't know that.
They measured their elevation above sea level.
They pointed it down until they could see it. And so obviously it was high enough for them to see it.
What are you talking
if
about?
it's pointed directly at them.
No, they measured their elevation above sea level, Brenda.
This is desperate stuff, honestly.
There's nothing desperate about it. It was pointed down, and it immediately nullifies. It immediately nullifies the
over and
experiment.
over again. Get the
I should
fuck
feel
out of here.
bad.
I'm done, dude. I didn't
No,
use cock.
fine.
I'm muting him.
Yeah, no, you're fine, buddy. I was literally just about to do the same thing.
Keep saying it over and over. Maybe it'll come true. There's no place like home. There's no your ruby slippers.
There's no
together.
place like home.
Yeah,
That's
Blazer's
still
still
reminds
here.
me
Do you have
of
any
it.
questions about the absolute nonsense you just heard?
I don't even know.